Hello, this is Betty Franks Krause with Mystic Tulip Art, and today I'm going to be showing you how I make a mixed media mail art postcard. And this is the one I'm going to show you how to make from start to finish, but actually I'm going to show you how to make 8 of them so that you have more than one that you could work with. So I'm starting off here with a couple of magazines that I had in my stash. These are the Vogue magazines, the fashion magazines, which are the best to grab pictures of models and such. And then I've got a stash of other stuff that I've gone through, and I'm just kind of tearing up some of these pages that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to be using watercolor paper today. So, and before I go there, this is Stampin' Up! Books or magazines, I guess, catalogs, that's the word I'm looking for. And I've had these for like 8 years. I don't do anything with them. So I thought, well, how cool. I like a lot of the stamps that are in there, so I'm just going to rip them out and add them to my collage today. So I'm using watercolor paper, and this is a watercolor paper that you can just I pick it up at Michael's when it's on sale, and it's the 9.5, I think, by 14 or by 13, something like that. And I divided up my paper so that I have kind of a guide to put images within each one of those sections. So I just did that with my pencil real quick. And here I've got colors that I'm going to be using. These are just acrylics, just your basic acrylics, and water on my brush. And just throwing that on, really not thinking too much about where it goes, just put it on. I'm adding orange as well. And I'm kind of sticking to colors in the same family of colors. So pink, orange, and yellow go well together, as opposed to, you know, doing a yellow and a blue or a green and an orange. So I like to stick with kind of the same color family. All right, so this dried, and now I'm getting my matte medium out and all of my magazine cutouts, and I'm just kind of tearing them down to size and putting them on with matte medium. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do the magazine pages because they're real delicate and I tend to mess them up often. So on that first one, you can see that I actually use my fingers to put the matte medium and spread it out. So not sure if that worked so well. I tried a couple of different ways. I also tried wiping it off with a paper towel, getting rid of the excess. And really, I think what worked best was just to put it on and rub it over it and just leave it alone. That seemed to be the ones that worked the best. So again, these magazine pages are a bit delicate, and the colors can lift off pretty easily. So I'm adding all of the ladies randomly, well, somewhat randomly. I wanted to kind of hit those different quadrants on there so that I have, I can use them on each one of my postcards that I create. And if I had been smart, I would have put 3 ladies in the middle instead of 2. So I ended up getting 8 postcards in the end instead of 9. I could have had 9, but not a big deal. I think it all worked out well anyway. So here I'm just starting to add some of my other elements that I've had in my stash. And these actually are the ones that I took out of the Stampin' Up! Magazine. So I thought that was kind of a fun way to use that instead of just throwing out the magazine. Or the catalog, I should call it. Alright, so I've got some other pages here. And I try to use a variety. So I've got some script, I've got some different elements, you know, the star, the key over there. I'm probably going to have some more script here coming up. Oh, I think this is a bit smaller script that I've got. And these are, I love using calendar pages. So these are calendar pages, and they're really thick. So what I'm doing is I'm removing one layer on the back side of it so that it's a bit thinner. So I like using numbers, letters, whenever possible, different images. So here I'm using, kind of for my leftover stash, these were sprayed onto deli paper with a little bit of color in the background, and I just happen to have them sitting around, so I'm cutting those up. And that's just from a stencil from the store that I bought. Sorry, that's my phone making too many noises, so I need to turn that down. Alright, so I'm just continuing on. This is some music sheet paper, just a little bit that I had in a stash. I just keep all these in a bucket, and just whenever I have something extra, I just throw in there, and then I go through it and pick out stuff that I want to use. And again, I've got these circles that I stamped onto just deli paper, so I'm adding those as well. Or I think these might be just on regular paper, actually. I've got some other ones that were on deli paper. I love using deli paper because it's a bit transparent, so it allows you to see what's underneath, which just adds more layering effects. And so when I'm putting these papers down, keep in mind that I'm not putting them next to each other, I'm putting them on top of each other, and that's creating the layering effect. So don't be afraid to cover up something that you already had there. Just keep layering it on. Here's some more deli paper. I really like the blue colors in this, so I ended up using some. And it adds a little bit of contrast to all of my pink, orange, and yellow colors going on. So another thing you can do if you want to do your background all in blues or in green colors or blue and green, and then for your final colors on top towards the end, then you can add maybe a yellow or a red, something that would contrast. All right, so this is pretty much done. Here's a close-up of what I put down. Again, very random, didn't think too much about where I wanted to add it, just put down pieces here and there. And let that dry overnight. And now we're back, and now we're going to, I've got kind of a stiff brush that I'm going to be using because I kind of wanted to do a dry brush effect, but I ended up putting too much paint on my brush. Doesn't matter. Again, here I'm working pretty quickly. That's because my video's speeded up, but really I am working pretty quick. I'm just kind of going around the edges, just adding another layer, putting some on top of the collaged elements to add some color to them. So not thinking too much about it, just adding a layer of color there. All right, now I've got a pink color, and it's just too dark of a pink, so I've added white to it. I'm going to mix that up using a palette knife, and then I decided, well, I'm just going to use the palette knife to add that color, and it really, I like the way it turned out. So cool way to add some more color, another layer of color. And it just kind of skimmed over, so it shows some of the other colors coming through, or even some of the collaged elements coming through. So again, working pretty quickly, not thinking too much about where it's going, just trying to avoid the ladies' faces so that I don't get paint on them. But I am going on their clothing, adding a little bit of color there. And this last color that I'm using is actually a neon pink, which I just love the neon colors. And you'd think I'd had more neon colors, but I don't. This is the only neon I have in my stash. But the pink just really, it's translucent, so it you can see the colors underneath, but it also just adds such vibrancy to the page. Here I'm just spreading around what I already have there. And that's going to be pretty much it for that. I'm going to end up letting this layer dry. You can use a heating tool if you want to speed up the process. All right, and there's the layers of color. All right, so now that's thoroughly dry. And while that was drying, I cut out a couple of templates here, 5 by 4 1/4 and 3.5 by 5 inch. And this is to help me visually see where I'm going to want to cut these. So I'm just kind of playing around and getting an idea of what that would look like. And that larger one's not going to work, but the smaller one, the 3.5 by 5, is the perfect size. So I am marking this. I'm going to cut this up, Actually, I should have marked the upper corner. There we go, because I don't want to cut all the way up. Otherwise, I'll cut the lady above right in half. And that doesn't fit, so I'm just going to cut with my scissors and get that as straight as possible. And now I've got another cutting tool, and I'm using the straight edges from the straight corners kind of as a guide to make the other two sides straight. All right, so that's what we're going to use. Just trim that extra. So I've got archival ink that I'm going to use today, and then pulling out some paints. And I really ended up only using, I think, one of these colors, but that's okay. I love the turquoise with the reds, the pink, the orange colors. So I just dabbed some on around there. I also squirted it with a little bit of water and took a little bit off. And I'm adding white also, and don't be afraid to add white. You'd be amazed how white really makes your other colors pop. I'm using the pencil eraser on this pencil to make dots. I do a lot of drawing in between layers here so that I can move on to the next layer. All right, so I'm going to use, this is a round or a roller dot one that was by Christy Tomlinson. And then I've got a script stamp that I just put on as well. And this butterfly is by Tim Holtz. Love this butterfly stamp. You've probably seen me use it a lot. And here's a smaller version of that stamp too. All right, and I like to dry that also because archival ink tends to stay wet for just a little bit, so I dry it. And I re-added those dots since they kind of disappeared. All right, so I'm getting out a few of my pens. I've got a grease pencil right now, or a China marker, and I am just outlining and smudging around the edges. And then I'm taking poster paint pens. These are by Sharpie, and they're water-based, and I use the extra fine poster paint pen, which is a little bit hard to find, I understand, but I get mine at Aaron Brothers. So I'm just doing a little bit of doodling, making some circles and some marks, putting in a couple of hearts. So I'll go back and forth between my white pen and my black one. And well, first I want to find a word to add on there. So I decided to use the word create. I've got a little stamp there. And press that down. Oh, now it's a little hard to see. I'm going to outline. I'm using a Christy Tomlinson pen that's by her company, Scarlet Lime, and she does a lot of mixed media work, and her pen is fabulous. It'll write over just about anything. All right, so I'm doing just a little bit more doodling there, and I decided that word create was very hard to see, so I did it in white. A little more doodling. And dry that. And that's it. So it goes pretty quickly once you have that basic background. Then you're just adding a few things on top. There's some close-ups that I'm going to be showing you, but before you go, and thank you for watching all of that, I'm going to show you the other 7 cards that I cut out. So I took each one and I cut them out so that I liked, trying to figure out where I wanted the image. So this is what they look like. So I was able to get a total of 8 out of the 9 by about 12-inch watercolor paper. And you don't have to use watercolor paper. You can certainly use any other kind of paper. I like the watercolor because it's sturdy and it really holds up to the water that I put on there when I water down my acrylics. And this last piece, if I planned it right, it could have been one more, but that's okay. Those are just extra pieces I'll put in my stash and use some other time. So now I've got some close-ups for you. All right, here we go. That's the full picture. There's a few close-ups as well. I like just that little hint of the bluish color in there. She's kind of evil looking, isn't she? I love that makeup. These models crack me up in these magazines. I love using them. One more close-up. And then I'm going to show you a close-up of all the other cards or postcards that I'll be using sometime in the future. So these are It's nice to have these in your stash all cut up, and then you can just, whatever you're in the mood to put on top, you can spend about probably no more than 10 minutes to really finish these up, depending on how much you want to put on there. See, I love the pink on that one, where you can see how I use the palette knife to skim over everything. And here the model is kind of wrinkled up because I didn't do such a good job with the matte medium on her, but no big deal. I don't mind that at all. He's got some great colors in him. Here's another one where her face kind of got messed up because of the matte medium dried. Didn't do such a good job there. So then that's the last one. So I had lots of fun making this and loved having it in my stash now. So if you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a super creative day.